Shout out to Melanie, my girl, who texted me this morning saying, I think Mercury retrograde's coming up. What am I going to do? And I didn't really know what to say. I said, let me get back to you on that because there's so much to think about here. Um, Mercury retrograde, April 2016. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Mostly bad and ugly, though. But not too bad. The effects of Mercury retrograde do start well before Mercury goes into retrograde, as it is in a shadow period. There's a shadow before retrograde and after retrograde. So you could definitely feel the effects a couple weeks leading up to Mercury retrograde and also a couple weeks after Mercury retrograde goes direct. I always know when Mercury retrograde is approaching because I start getting more clumsy and breaking stuff by accident. And though I can't help you or even myself fast forward through Mercury retrograde, I'm going to go over some tips for how to get through it, what to expect, things to watch out for, and a list of things to avoid doing and to do during and before Mercury retrograde. So Mercury retrograde is a time where the planet Mercury, which is the planet representative of communication, commerce, travel, and written communication as well, it appears to go backwards in its orbits. And because of this, all of those facets also kind of go backwards and get confused and jumbled. During retrograde, a lot of times the past returns to us literally. As other things go backwards, often we'll hear from an ex or a friend that we haven't talked to in years. Almost every Mercury retrograde, somebody contacts me that I haven't talked to in years. And it could just be like a LinkedIn invitation or a Facebook friend request. It could be something very small or simple like that. But you will find if you start hearing from people you haven't talked to in a long time, if you check the calendar, it's usually around or during Mercury retrograde. Also, any unresolved issues we haven't dealt with tend to reappear for sorting out during retrograde. Maybe if we, sort them out, they won't come back, but they will keep showing themselves otherwise. This April 2016, the pre-shadow phase of retrograde starts on April 14th. On April 18th, Mercury officially goes into retrograde, and it comes out of retrograde by going direct on May 22nd. That's not the end, though, because there's the post-shadow of the retrograde, which doesn't end till June 7th. So that's like 2 months. 2 months of retrograde chaos. But let's put some cards on the table, literally, and see what their prediction is for this April 2016 retrograde. These are all really good cards, okay? Now this is a communication card, which is kind of confirming and acknowledging the subject because Mercury is the planet of communication and the retrograde affects that and communication gets jumbled. So it's kind of acknowledging what we're talking about here. The other cards kind of symbolize that it will be a smooth transition from retrograde to the end of retrograde. And it looks to me like it will actually go less messy than other retrogrades have gone. The last couple retrogrades were very bad. The one in January, there was a lot of Mars influence, and then last year the retrogrades were very intense. But this one, according to my cards, looks like it will be quick and painless. So that will be much appreciated by all of us, I'm sure. Let's see. So hopefully we'll keep our retrograde mishaps to a minimum this year. And now that we looked at the cards, let's look at some of the things you could do to prepare for Mercury retrograde. So number one, you're going to want to back up your cell phone, tablet, computer, or any other electronic devices because during retrograde, electronics tend to act up and we could lose important files. It has happened. to many people many times. Number 2, if you have travel plans, I would recommend double and triple checking your reservations and plans to make sure everything is correct. There tends to be delays and mishaps with dates and travel times during Mercury retrograde. Number 3, simply watch your step and take extra precautions. So you tend to be a little more clumsy during the retrograde, or I do. So it's good to really watch where you're going, count your steps going down the stairs. And number 4, keep an eye on your bills, automated payments, and anything you ordered over the phone or online. Orders and charges often get messed up, and you may end up paying for something that you didn't even order. So keep an eye on all of your invoices during Mercury retrograde. Last retrograde, I had about all those things happen. I was on a hike, I tripped, and my phone fell screen first into a boulder. That was the second or third time I broke my phone one way or another during retrograde. So it's real. The retrograde is real. I was also, it was just the shadow period. That wasn't even actually retrograde when that happened. It was pre-retrograde. So the pre-retrograde can be just as intense as the actual retrograde. Now, a few things that you should avoid during retrograde. You should not sign contracts. You should not buy any big ticket items. Don't buy any electronics. And don't set a wedding date during a retrograde. Check the retrograde dates when picking your wedding date. Pretty much avoid making any huge decisions. It isn't that Mercury retrograde is totally gonna ruin your new car or wedding or electronics if you decide to not heed this advice and go buy them or get married during a retrograde anyway. It's more like it's going to cause a lot of annoyances and undue obstacles. Lots of problems, and things will not go smoothly. So it's, something that most people would prefer to avoid if they can. But it's not the end of the world either. And if you can avoid traveling, it's best to wait till after the retrograde because there's likely to be many delays. Let's see. Closer to the retrograde, I'm going to do an interactive reading on how the retrograde may affect you and some info on and guidance on how to best handle it. Okay. That's it for today. For more readings, you can subscribe to this channel or like me on Facebook at Psychic Hayley Rose. If you're interested in booking a private reading, please contact me, message me. Facebook message is fine. And I'm going to post some useful links below if you do want to connect with me on Facebook. Thanks for stopping by.